Welcome to rSlash Am I Overreacting, where an old man is caught sniffing his stepdaughter's panties. Our next Reddit post is from Starry Lights. I'm a 44-year-old woman and my husband is 45, and my husband took out a loan and won't explain it. I can't get past it. Is this worthy of divorce? So my spouse took out a loan of $4,100 and immediately cash-apped it to a woman. I could see the transaction in our joint accounts easily. When I asked him about it, he lied for weeks, saying that he was buying an aquarium, and then saying that he put the money into a side hustle. But I disproved each of his stories by investigating and calling around. Eventually, he admitted that he was giving a girl money. After a deeper dive into our accounts, I found out that he's given this girl a total of $6,400 over the course of 8 months now. I'm just so annoyed and angry since we've been married 22 years and it's all ending over lies. Also, I actually know the girl. She was a coworker of my husband 5 years ago. They both swear that it's platonic and she just needed the money. He literally said, "I didn't tell you because I knew that you'd be mad." She even called me to explain and texted me Bible verses about forgiveness. I don't care about anything they say. I make twice as much money as my husband makes, so I'll likely have to pay him alimony. I may even have to move out of my own house. He was taking my money to help her. So unbelievable. OP, if anything, I'd say you're underreacting because I think your marriage was over the second he decided to give money to another woman. Am I overreacting for thinking that my girlfriend is insane for her views on motherhood? We're both in our 20s and not financially stable. One day, I might want to have kids, but definitely not before I feel I can give that kid a good life. My girlfriend seems desperate to be a mother, almost to the point of being selfish. She says she's always wanted to be a mom, and despite living paycheck to paycheck, having a lot of unresolved trauma that significantly affects her today, and having a slew of unaddressed health problems due to finances, she says that she would have a kid right now if I agreed to it. My parents were teenagers. Because of this, I had to live in friends' and family's homes, stay in shelters, and just generally had a childhood that could have been more healthy if my parents made better decisions. I would never bring my kids into a life like that. As far as her reasons for her desperation, she says, I don't want to be an old mom, which she thinks is 30 and up. She's scared of being or possibly becoming infertile, so she wants to do it before it's too late. Even if she's not ready for the responsibility, she says that she'll get government assistance, lean on friends and family, and just figure it out. So, am I overreacting for thinking that she's insane for this, or is this kind of thing genuinely insane? Well, if you ask me, this woman doesn't need a baby, she needs a therapist. Am I overreacting because my girlfriend angrily grabbed my face? Me and my girlfriend are both 30. We were on a road trip with some friends recently. For the last leg, her friend was driving and the two of us were in the back seat. The friend was going to drop us off at a train station, and my girlfriend and I would get on a train to our town. The trip hadn't been as relaxing as we had hoped for, and we were both a bit tired. About half an hour into the journey, I asked my girlfriend if she thinks that we would have time for a meal at the train station before getting on the train. We had fought once or twice on the holiday, so I planned to treat her. She said that we didn't have time, and I said okay. I honestly said, okay, as neutrally as possible. My girlfriend heard a dismissive / passive-aggressive, okay, and immediately lost it. She hates feeling disrespected. She started whisper fighting with me, saying things like, "How dare you talk to me like that? You need to think really hard about how you want to treat me." I froze for a couple of reasons. Firstly, when she goes nuclear like this, not often, like 2 to 3 times a year, it feels like anything that I do or say is liable to make the situation worse, and experience seems to back this up. I have never successfully calmed her down from this state. Secondly, because it was so thoroughly unexpected, I was just asking about plans, and the next thing I knew, this was happening. Thirdly, because it was in the backseat of her friend's car while the friend was driving us. I point-blank refused to get into any kind of argument or disagreement in this kind of setting. I felt completely trapped and ambushed. So I just stared straight ahead, drilling a hole into the headrest in front of me with my eyes, when my girlfriend reached across, grabbed my chin, and forcibly pulled my face to hers and snarled, "Look at me when I'm talking to you!" I can't really remember a lot of what happened after that, but I stayed silent, and eventually the rest of the trip to the train station was silent. I was honestly kind of terrified, and this is not the first time this has happened. About a year ago, we got into a fight while talking, and when I tried to ask for a 10-minute break to cool down, which we had agreed on as a cool down mechanism, she refused. When I said, "Okay, you're allowed to keep talking, but I'll stay silent for 10 minutes and just walk to our destination," and tried to keep walking, she grabbed my arm and again accused me of being disrespectful towards her. I told her that if she ever touches me in anger again, the relationship is over. Am I overreacting or underreacting? OP, your girlfriend clearly has a temper/rage problem, and she's one of the most exhausting type of people to be with who, when they get angry, they just fight to fight. They just want to make you suffer, they just want to yell and complain and argue, and they just want to be mean so that you're miserable because they want you to be as miserable as possible. And that's not a healthy relationship, that's not a healthy way to solve fights. It's toxic, OP. Please get out of this relationship. Am I overreacting? My husband went to a bachelor party where escorts were staying at the villa. I'm a 35-year-old woman, and last weekend, my 38-year-old husband went to a bachelor party in Cancun. The best man booked a private villa that's out of the main city and pretty secluded. But it's fully staffed, it's right on the water, and it has plenty of rooms for everyone in their small group to have their own room. My husband didn't really want to go because we've been so busy with work and other trips this summer. He told the groom and the best man that he was going to back out, but they were adamant about him going. They said they couldn't imagine it without him. So the best man bought my husband a non-refundable plane ticket and basically said that he wasn't taking no for an answer. Leading up to the trip, my intuition was screaming that something about this wasn't on the up and up. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just had this yucky feeling in my guts. The week of, the best man sends the itinerary, which includes dress attire details. Stuff like, bring your best swim trunks like you're dressing to impress at a Vegas pool party. And planned theme nights such as a Blacklight night and Miami Vice night. My husband and I laughed, thinking that it would be silly to be dressing to impress at a sausage fest. But we figured the best man was just trying to make it fun since it was such a small group of them. But my intuition was gnawing at me again. The afternoon they arrived at the villa was fine. My husband sent me photos and a video walkthrough of his bedroom to show me the view from his balcony overlooking the ocean. We texted about a lot of work stuff. We own a business together. But I could tell later that night that something was different just based on the change of tone of his texts. I just figured they were busy, and I didn't text him anymore, and I tried not to read too much into it. The next morning, their first morning there, my husband posts on his Instagram story a photo of the breakfast table at the villa. Nothing special, but it just had a pretty view of the pool and the ocean in the background. Later that morning, I happened to look at the villa's Instagram, and I saw they reposted a tagged video from a woman's story. The video was of this woman and two other women eating breakfast, and she panned over the table and out to the view of the pool and the ocean. I figured it was probably the people who stayed there at the villa before our husbands arrived, and the villa had just gotten around to reposting it. Until something caught my eye on the dining table. It was one of the decorations from the bachelor party. I saw the same thing in my husband's story too. I thought, that can't be right. But after quadruple checking, it was the same effing decoration that our husbands had set up specifically for the bachelor party. I then went to the woman's profile and looked at her other stories and saw that those women were actually there at the villa the night before, dressed up for the Blacklight night, were partying at the villa, and were now having breakfast, meaning they effing stayed the night there. I admit that I stalked this woman's Instagram the majority of the day. One of the stories showed her and the women hanging out in the pool and all our husbands in the background. Then she posted a photo of them all sitting around the table gambling together. She was sitting right next to my husband. I was able to see one of the other women's stories as well, and she actually had her OnlyFans link in her bio. And I was able to see that her X account was full of adult content. I lost my effing mind. I immediately called my husband to confront him, and at first he tried to lie until he realized that I actually knew and wasn't just baiting him for info. He said he didn't know what to do. The best man said that he had a surprise after they arrived at the villa, and apparently it was that these escorts were staying with them for their entire trip. My husband said that he planned to tell me when he got home, but figured if he told me while on the trip, I would tell the other wives, and he would have basically fried the other husbands there because it would have gone nuclear. I've never been so livid. How on earth would anyone think it's appropriate for strange women to be staying there? None of these men are single. The best man put all of his friends in a position of being trapped at a secluded villa with slutty escorts and nowhere else to go. And now they have to keep a secret and lie to their wives and fiancés so that they aren't the rat of the friend group that outed everything. Am I overreacting? Man, you are not overreacting. If I were in your shoes, I would have also gone nuclear OP. Even if your husband didn't do anything, the thing is, how do you even trust that he didn't do anything? It's kind of tragic because even if he were there and he's like, oh man, this sucks, I love my wife, I don't want to touch him, the trust is still gone. Though, if I had to guess, he did sleep with them. The thing that really stands out to me is this has to be crazy expensive. Because presumably he's also paying for rooms for the prostitutes, unless, they're sharing beds, which I guess saves room. But still, hiring escorts all day, that's got to be expensive. I'll be honest, I've never hired an escort. How much does it cost to hire an escort? 24 hours. I don't know. Man, I don't know. Google is all over the place. I see some things that are like $500 an hour, but there's no way that's the hourly rate for 24 hours. There's got to be some sort of bulk discount, I guess. The reason why I point this out is I would be very, very surprised if the best man paid for all this himself and didn't expect the other guys to pay as well. Because hiring multiple escorts for that long, it has to be at least 5 to 10K, right? I guess. I'm kind of spitballing numbers here. Am I overreacting when I caught my wife's stepdad sniffing her underwear on the baby monitor? We're currently living out of state, and my wife flew home to surprise her mom. She took our 10-month-old son with her. She called me and told me to look at the baby monitor that automatically turns on when it senses movement. I looked at the video she was talking about, and you can see her stepdad, whom her mom married when my wife was 10 years old, in her room. He picked up a pair of my wife's pants with the underwear in them, held them up to his nose, and took 3 big sniffs that you could actually hear on the monitor, and then set them down. That was 1 hour ago, and I'm close to buying a plane ticket, flying there, and beating his ass. What do I do? My wife is telling her mom right now. Then OP posted an update. My wife has convinced me not to beat his ass because of the legal troubles that could bring. Unfortunately, they're on the other side of the country, and we don't have money to buy a plane ticket at the moment for me to be there. My mother-in-law is deciding what she needs to do, but is leaning towards leaving him. We made it clear that we will love her no matter what, but we will not be near her husband ever again, especially with our kids. I think that'll convince her to leave him. Unfortunately, again, they recently adopted a 10-year-old girl who was a family friend of theirs. This adds another difficult layer to the situation. My wife and mother-in-law haven't confronted the stepfather yet, but they're planning to do so tonight. And unfortunately, this was posted 2 months ago, and OP did not post an update, so I guess we'll just all have to be left wondering on this one. Am I overreacting? My 5-year-old was touched inappropriately by classmates at preschool, and I called the state. My 5-year-old daughter told me that 3 boys in her class, presumably the same age, held her down and touched something I'm not going to read in her preschool class. Yo, can I read this? She said they asked her to play doctor and she agreed, but when they started to remove her, I'm going to skip that part. She told them she didn't want to play and that they shouldn't be doing it. I can't read this. She said the teacher told them they can't be playing doctor. I understand being curious about bodies is normal for this age, but I have an issue with the fact that my daughter was held against her will and that there was a lack of supervision to allow this to happen. There wasn't consensual curiosity. My daughter is not one to make things up. She's pretty matter-of-fact and a rule follower. She's also a very compliant child and will go along with whatever she's told to do. She seems okay after the incident, but obviously it made a big enough impression on her for her to tell me about it, since normally when I ask her what she did that day, I just get an "I don't know" or "nothing." So, did I overreact by calling the state to open up an investigation? Yo, calling the state to open up an investigation is the bare minimum. Oh, I don't like to read stories like this. They make me pretty physically uncomfortable, to be honest with you, and there's a pretty good chance that YouTube is going to slam this video based on the content that's in it. But I like to bring awareness to it, because down in the comments, people are pointing out the dangers of this situation. Bitter Obligation says, "I'm an early childhood teacher and a victim of child sexual assault. You did the right thing and probably just helped those boys." Children are absolutely going to do silly things when it comes to getting naked with each other. The amount of children I've seen drop their pants in the bathroom, pointing at each other and going, "You have a blank and I have a blank," and then giggling about it and wanting to touch it is unreal. But that's typical, normal, curious behavior. What you've described is not. This sounds like one or all three of those boys are being abused or know someone who is, or they were exposed to adult videos. This is similar to what I experienced. My cousin told me that she was playing doctor or tickling me, but I came to find out that my stepfather, who abused me, also abused her, so she abused me not knowing that it was bad. I'm wondering if those three boys have anything in common, like a little league or a club or a church. Don't come at me, please, where they could be being harmed by a trusted adult. That was rSlash Am I Overreacting? And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.